What's up, Buck Doug with D&E in the Garage. Today I want to talk about transfer cases. As many of you know, this new Jeep that I just got is a 2001 Jeep Grand Cherokee WJ V8 with Quadra Drive. Now what Quadra Drive is the 247 transfer case. It's essentially a limited slip transfer case with limited slip differentials front and rear. Now when I got that, I thought that this vehicle was going to be really good for plowing for that reason. Limited slip front, limited slip rear. I came from plowing with the Cherokee. I don't plow like parking lots. I don't commercially plow. I just plow my own driveway. But it is on a hill. The Cherokee with the 231 did really very good. 231 with open differentials. I was surprised how well it did. Yesterday, we got 10 inches of snow. And if I'm being completely honest, this Jeep did not do well. I spent the whole weekend getting a plow mount set up and everything, and when push came to shove, there was a lot more shove than push. And I've dissected my experience, and I think I've figured out what the issue is with the 247 and why I will be ditching this 247 ASAP. I'm going to go through the 247 stuff, and then I'm going to talk about my other options for transfer cases after that. The issue is this: the 247 transfer case, which came in the WJ, and then in the WK, and also the XK Commander, is a limited slip center differential. When I say center differential, I mean transfer case. That means it's rear wheel drive, just normal. Right now I'm driving on dry roads, rear wheel drive. As soon as it senses the rear wheels slipping, it sends power to the front. Now that's awesome. If you're just on normal roads, or you're just trying to get up a little hill, or maybe you're doing a little bit of off-road mudding, but it is in fact a blunt instrument. And what I mean by that is this: my driveway is a hill straight up, and then it's a big square at the top, but there's not a lot of room up there. I've got my other WJ up there, there's garbage cans, there's not a lot of room to begin with, so I need all four wheels churning to push me up the hill. And then once I get to the top, I need to be able to make very fine movements to turn around. And I couldn't do that yesterday. And here's why. The front wheels don't get any traction until the back wheels have already slipped. Which, like I said, if you're just powering through some mud or something, that's not a problem. But in a snow situation where I'm trying to make a very tight turn that only goes about 2 feet, if the front wheels don't get power until the back wheels have already spun, by the time the front wheels get power, the back's already out of control. I was drifting. I was almost in my neighbor's lawn before my front wheels would catch and pull me in the right direction. That's no good for me. That's no good for plowing. It'd be fine for on-road. The 247 is a hands-off transfer case. All right, yes, it has a low range, which does lock the differentials, and I tried to use that yesterday, but it didn't work. It wasn't, you can't plow in low range. It's a really good transfer case if you don't want to have to think about it. It's a really good transfer case if all you're doing with your Jeep is on-road driving. But for me, vote it off the island. All right, now the ZJs have their own version of the 247, kind of it's like an all-4 system. It was the 249. A lot of you, especially if you got a V8 ZJ, you'll know that you had the 249. Eric had the 249 in his. It's the exact same idea as the 247, but it uses different internals, and the 247 is actually stronger. The 247 uses a gear rotor design similar to Verilok differentials, and the 249 uses a viscous coupler, and what happens is the viscous coupler breaks down over time, and then you're locked in four-wheel drive with the 249. So those two transfer cases, in my opinion, they don't have a ton of value for Jeeping. They're okay for everyday driving, or maybe some very light off-road. If you do have a 249 in your ZJ, considering the fact that all ZJs are at least 21 years old now, you're going to want to, they're expensive to replace, the viscous coupler. You may want to consider swapping out to one of these other two that I'm going to talk about. Now, before I had the 247 in this Jeep, I plowed with a Cherokee with the 231, and that's just a very basic, I think it's Command Track is the proprietary Jeep name for Jeeps with the 231. It's just a very basic transfer case. It's got a two-wheel drive mode, that's for normal driving around. Then it has a 4 part-time, which means it locks your front and rear axle together, which means if you're trying to drive and turn on dry pavement while you're in two-wheel or four-wheel drive part-time, your front wheels are going to bind when you try to turn because it won't let the front and rear axles spin at different speeds. And then it has a 4-low, which is the same thing. It's low gear, but your front and rear axles are locked together. That worked really well. I had open differentials, but because the front and the rear were locked together, whenever I hit the gas in four-wheel drive, at least one of the front wheels was pulling, and it was able to maneuver me around my driveway the way I needed it to. Now, my first introduction to Jeeps was on a 242 transfer case. That's Select Track. They put that in the ZJ, in the WJ, in the KJ Liberty, in the no, I don't think the WK got it. No, maybe they only put it in those three. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. ZJ, WJ, KJ Liberty got Select Track. That's the same as the 231, but it adds one extra component. It adds a part-time component. That's where power is being sent to the front and rear differential, but they're not locked together. That's four-wheel drive that you can use on all pavements. Because it will allow the front and the rear to spin at different speeds. Now that's the transfer case I want to put in this WJ. That, I think, gives you the most options. Well, it literally gives you the most options, but I think it's the best option for somebody who daily drives a Jeep but also needs it for something like plowing, towing, some light off-roading. My main WJ, my Overland WJ, that's the whole exact setup. It has Select Track, but then it has Verilocks front and rear. That's what this one will have. So if I'm in two-wheel drive, I have a limited slip rear. That's great for towing. That's great for normal driving. If I'm in two-wheel drive full-time, that means I have limited slip front and rear, but my front and rear differentials can spin at different speeds. That's good for being on roads that are semi-dry, but still are, slightly bad weather. Slightly rough conditions. Maybe that's a slippery, muddy road. Maybe that's a snow-covered road. Maybe that's just heavy rain and I'm finding I'm slipping. Then, and this is where the key comes in, then in part-time, I have my center differential locked, and then I have a limited slip front and rear, so I can have on-demand all four wheels churning. I think that would be the best bet for plowing. That's what I'm going to swap into in this Jeep. I was excited about the 247. I've heard mixed reviews. There are people that love it. There are people that say get rid of it immediately. I know it is a strong transfer case. You don't hear about people blowing up their 247 all that often, but it didn't work yesterday. That's all there is to it. Coming up the hill, my back end was flying around. Here's the other problem. Obviously, when I put a 300-pound plow on the front of this Jeep, now it's made the back end even lighter. So now the back end wants to dance anyway, and the back end has to slip before the front end can grab. It just wasn't a good situation. I tried, it didn't work. I'm gonna make it through the rest of this winter, and then this summer, I'm definitely swapping my 247 for a 242. Now what Eric did in his ZJ, and he'll tell you more about this some other time, he had the 249, and it did exactly what I just described before. Viscous coupler locked up, it failed, and he was always in four-wheel drive. So it was hard to turn sometimes, and he wasn't getting very good mileage, so he pulled that out, and he got a 231, which would be command track. That's what they put in a lot of Wranglers. That's what they put in, to my knowledge, every single Cherokee, though you can let me know if I'm mistaken on that. I don't think Cherokee's got anything but command track if they were four-wheel drive. Really capable transfer case. It's awesome because it's simple and it's strong and it just works. Here's the only issue I've ever encountered with the 242 transfer case. Because it has that extra mode, the throw on the shifter for each position is shorter. And a lot of times when I'm trying to go from full-time back to two-wheel drive, I'm done on the trail and I'm trying to get back home, I have to shift through part-time, and it would get stuck in part-time. Even though the shifter would be in two-wheel drive, the Jeep itself, the transfer case, was actually in four-wheel drive part-time, which meant now I can't drive on the roads. My wheels are binding and popping. If you've ever tried to drive at speeds in a Jeep that has part-time engaged, it's horrifying. It sounds like you're blowing things up, and you very well might be. So, things are popping and cracking and binding and whining. It's really a mess. That doesn't happen in the 231, to my knowledge. I've had a couple 231s, never had a problem where they got stuck in that part-time. So when you're out there in the world, you'll see a lot of Jeepers that had the 249 and the 247, and they swap it for either the 231 or the 242. Now there's another transfer case, the 241 that they put in Rubicons. It's like the 231, but it has a much beefier chain, and it has a lower low range. Really good for rock crawling and some heavy off-road. And if you're gonna, put 35s on your Jeep and you're not upgrading to an aftermarket transfer case, then a 241, if you can find one, they're hard to find, is definitely the way to go. Now, if you're wondering what I'm babbling about with all these numbers, 231, 241, 242, 249, 247, the numbers are not arbitrary on Jeep transfer cases. I actually have a video card up in the corner. If you want to check that video out, it explains what each of those three numbers are. It's really interesting, and it can help. Basically, those numbers tell you everything you need to know about the transfer case. How many modes it has, how many high and low ranges it has, how strong it is. Chevy also uses the NV/NP transfer cases with that 3-digit distinction. Obviously Dodge and Chrysler do. There are some upgrades you can do. The 242 that I want to put in this Grand Cherokee also came in a 242 HD. The HD one went into some WJs with V8s, some Dodge trucks, and it's got a beefier chain. Now if I can find one of those, that's the direction I'm going to go. The question is, can I find one of those? I don't know. I gotta look. I've seen one in a junkyard once, and I didn't pull it. I don't remember why. I think Eric and I were pressed for time, and I've regretted it ever since. I wanted to have a 242 HD in my other WJ, and now I'd really like to have one in this, since I'm going to tow and plow with this thing. I think they also made a 231 HD, if I'm not mistaken. That definitely went in like Dodge trucks. A lot of Dodge pickup trucks and SUVs have the 231 from the 90s and early 2000s. So sometimes you can get one of them that's even beefier. It just depends on what you want it for. There's a transfer case for every situation. It's just a matter of figuring out what you want to do. Like I said, if my wife was going to drive this Jeep or something, and she obviously is not plowing and towing, then maybe the 247 is great. It's just a nice, simple, don't have to think about it, relatively good in on-road and off-road, but for the precision driving I need to do while plowing, not going to cut it. So, if you got any questions on transfer cases, by all means, leave me a comment down there in the squawk boxes. Let me know what your experience is with transfer cases. If we have WJ guys and ZJ guys out there, I'm willing to bet some of you have swapped out 249 and 247s for 242 and 231s. But I would definitely like to know. You can look forward to a video on how to do that. Swapping the transfer cases is not hard. You really just have to swap the input shaft and then sometimes address the fact that you need a shorter or longer drive shaft now, but not difficult stuff all in all. That's about it. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.